Ciao e bentornati! Welcome back to PILLOLE D'ITALIANO. In today's episode, episode number 62, we're going to go back and talk about prepositions again. Yay! I hope you're excited. This episode is going to be super useful, I'm sure, so pay attention. A lot of people ask me, and it doesn't matter if they're beginners or not, a lot of people struggle with this. They ask me, why in Italian do you guys have two ways of saying to? To meaning T-O. I'm going to the restaurant, right? That kind of to. Why do we have two ways? We have a and we have in. Well, this is a great question, and as much as I wish I could give you a one-size-fits-all answer, unfortunately, living languages do not work this way. What I mean is that a language first develops and then the grammar comes along trying to explain it. It's not the other way around. So that's why you see so many exceptions, and that's why you see stuff such as vado al ristorante, but vado in chiesa. As always, I encourage you, rather than memorize what happens with which word, just to pay attention at how Italians and native speakers use the language. That is always the best advice that I can give you. Just pay attention. When you open an Italian book, look at those prepositions and see how they're used so that you will get used to seeing al ristorante. You don't even have to think about it. Oh, is that a or in? When you see in palestra, to the gym, same thing applies, so you don't have to question it. That's always the best approach, and that's the natural way of learning a language. If you think about how Italian kids learn Italian, there is no Italian mom who says, okay, today we're going to study prepositions, pay attention, take notes. No, it doesn't work that way. So what I want to do today is just run through the most common places that you might need to go to, that you might need to use and to add to your vocabulary, and see if we're going to use a or in with them. Are you ready? Before we jump in, a reminder, use the comment section below to communicate with me. Feel free to request episodes. And also, if after watching an episode you have additional questions, this is the space, the comment section below the episode, to ask questions. If you reach out to me on social media, I might get back to you in a week because I don't necessarily stay on top of my game on social media when I have a lot of work. Well, doing YouTube videos is part of my job, so you can rest assured that I will get back to you within 24 hours if you leave a comment down here. And as always, if you enjoy these videos, don't forget to hit that like button. All right, with that being said, let's jump into it. And let's see which to you should use. Let's start with the word casa. When you want to say that you go home, meaning that you go to your place, you should say vado a casa. You might have noticed this word casa used also with the preposition in, and that is only in the case that you're staying inside. So when you say I go home to, you're moving towards that destination, you would use a, vado a casa. But then to say that you are at home, you could either say sono a casa, generically speaking, I'm at home, or sono in casa, if you mean that you're inside your place. So you see, right now I'm recording from my place. I could say sono a casa, but I could also say sono in casa because the weather is terrible outside. By the way, I'm recording this episode shortly after the last hurricane hit, and hence the gloomy kind of vibe. But anyway, let's move on. Sono a casa or sono in casa, in this case, both will apply. But if I want to say that I'm going home, so I'm going towards that place that I call home, I would say vado a casa. What other places are accompanied by that a? Scuola, school, vado a scuola. Cinema, that's a movie theater, vado al cinema. You see how here we are combining a plus il, so the preposition plus the article. I go to the movie. While I go to school, that one does not need any article. So vado a scuola, but vado al cinema. I also would use that a with teatro, theater, vado a teatro. Market and supermarket, vado al mercato or al supermercato. Then you're probably all familiar with ristorante, restaurant, where you say vado al ristorante. And also vado al bar, to the bar. That bar is not just the place where you go and grab drinks, alcoholic beverages. Bar is also a cafe. So it could also be the place where you go grab breakfast, your cappuccino in the morning, al bar. And finally, a very popular one, especially in summertime, vado al mare, to the sea, al mare. We will see there is another way of saying that you're going to the beach, but if you're going to the sea, we're talking about the body of water and not the sandy beach. We're saying al mare. All right, when do we use in? We use it with piscina, swimming pool, vado in piscina. Palestra, that's gym, vado in palestra. We also use in with posta and banca. So posta is a post office and banca is a bank. Vado in posta, vado in banca. Vado in chiesa, that one I mentioned earlier, that means to the church. Chiesa is a church, so vado in chiesa. In ufficio, to the office, in ufficio. Also in cantina and in soffitta. Those are two places that refer to your home, especially if you have a house with multiple levels. Cantina is a cellar, is the usually downstairs area used for storage. If you happen to live in an apartment building in Italy, you will also have a cantina, and that's usually like a separate room. You will have to go down a set of stairs, maybe even multiple floors, to the basement of that building, and you will find all of those cantine. Those are like locked rooms. Each one is associated with an apartment. It's almost like a storage facility that you will find here in the US, but it exists in your own building. How convenient. And it comes with the unit. So when you buy or rent an apartment in Italy, it comes with that cantina. Oftentimes it comes also with garage, or actually in Italy we call it often box. Like the English word box. Has nothing to do with cardboard though. That's a space where you are going to park your car. And guess what? We use in for that one too, in box. Vado in box. And what is soffitta? That soffitta that I mentioned before is the attic. Vado in soffitta. So that's another storage space and it's right underneath the roof. Have you ever heard of the word edicola? More or less it translates with newsstand. So you go and buy the newspaper there, in edicola, in edicola. And you remember how earlier I mentioned that if you go to the beach, instead of saying vado al mare, you also have another alternative? Here it is, in spiaggia. Vado in spiaggia. Spiaggia is the shore. So when you say vado al mare, you're referring to the body of water, but vado in spiaggia, you're referring to the portion of land, usually sandy beach, but it doesn't necessarily have to be sandy, that is right there next to the water, in spiaggia. Talking about some other outdoor places that you might want to go to, you have in montagna, in collina, in pianura, in campagna. In montagna, that's the mountain. So vado in montagna when you go to the mountains. In collina, collina is a hill. So it's like a lower elevation kind of scenario. Vado in collina. In pianura, that's a plain. Most famous Italian pianura is Pianura Padana. Milan is in the center of it. So that's a plain, the flat land, in pianura. In campagna, that's a countryside. Vado in campagna. So here you have all of this vocabulary, maybe some of it is new, and you can start talking about what your favorite vacation place is. Preferisco andare in montagna, preferisco andare al mare, etc. Right? You see how you can start talking about what you prefer to do, where you prefer to go. Some people prefer to stay in the city, in città, and that's also how you say to go to the city, andare in città. In a sense, you're going into the heart of a city when you go and visit one, so that's why we say in, vado in città. And then we have a bunch of businesses, different types of store or establishments where you can go and buy specific things that will all be expressed with that in every time you go to one of them. such as the bakery, pasticceria, in pasticceria. Pizzeria, in pizzeria. We all know what that is, right? It's the kind of place that specializes in making pizzas. Sometimes it's not even a restaurant. Sometimes it's just a place, like a hole in the wall where you go buy your pizza and then you take it home. You would use in again, in pizzeria. In panetteria, what would that be? Pane means bread. So panetteria is a bakery. Oh, wait a second, wasn't that pasticceria already? In Italian, we have two words for bakery because we make a distinction between the bakery where you go and buy bread, panetteria, and the bakery where you go and buy sweets, pasticceria. So in pasticceria, that's to the sweet bakery. In panetteria, to the bakery for bread. How about gelateria? In gelateria. Vado spesso in gelateria. I go often to the ice cream shop. In gelateria. We also have la macelleria. Macelleria is a butcher shop. In macelleria. So when you go to the butcher shop to buy some meat, you would say vado in macelleria. Then we have tintoria, cartoleria, and farmacia. Tintoria is a dry cleaners. Vado in tintoria. That means that you're going to the dry cleaner. Farmacia, well, that's kind of obvious, right? It sounds like pharmacy. In farmacia, to the pharmacy. And when you say vado in cartoleria, where are you going? Carta means paper in Italian, so vado in cartoleria. It means that you're going to the stationery shop. It's a place where they sell paper, but not only paper. A lot of the things that you might need for your kids when they go back to school, you will find them there in cartoleria. They also sell magazines, toys. Be careful when you bring your kids. You might come out of it with way more stuff that you intended to buy. It's a fun place. And speaking of fun places, there is one that you might not expect. Ludoteca. It sounds a bit like my name. Ludoteca. Vado in ludoteca. That comes from Latin, and basically ludoteca is the place where you go and play. Oftentimes in ludoteca you will find a lot of like board games and stuff like that. So it's just another place that you might want to visit when you're in Italy. Two more ECA places are enoteca and discoteca. Vado in enoteca to buy wine. Enoteca is a wine shop. And discoteca has the word disco. It's a club where people go and dance. Vado in discoteca. Okay, this was quite a long list. You might not even need all of this in terms of vocabulary, but maybe you do, so pick and choose whatever you're going to use next time that you visit Italy. Now you know which places go with a and which places go with in. Have you noticed that a lot of the places that follow that preposition in will end either in eca, biblioteca, discoteca, as we just saw, or in ia, pasticceria, farmacia. So those are two broad categories of places that will just go with that preposition in. That might help you. It doesn't mean though that every time you have in as a preposition, the place will need to end with eca or ia. But if that place, if the name of that place that you're going to actually ends with ia or eca, then you can rest assured you can use in front of it. Now, before we wrap this episode up, a disclaimer. Yes, I'm aware that I mentioned only places and I didn't really mention at all forms of transportation. Those are accompanied by the prepositions a and in as well. If you are super confused about which form of transportation goes with which, let me know in the comment section below and I will create an episode on that aspect of those two prepositions, a and in. But for today, I just wanted to focus on places, physical places that you go to, because I think that, at least this is what I noticed, they create a lot of confusion. You might have noticed that I did not mention some places that you might want to go to fairly often, such as the hairstylist, the doctor's office, etc. The reason why I did not mention them is because to express these type of places, we use the name of the professional who works there rather than the name of the place. And as I mentioned in another great episode about prepositions, the preposition da. When we're talking about professions, then we use da in front of it. So I'm not going to go through all of them right now here. I will encourage you to go back and watch that episode or watch it for the first time if you haven't done so yet, because that is going to be complimentary. And go have fun, have a blast. Let me know what you think. If you have doubts, questions, as usual, I'm here to answer all of them. I truly hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, please hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to this channel, and I will see you in a week. Ciao, a presto!